Now let's create a small top and let's see how, for example, we put the machinings. So, as you see here in the cabinet, we don't need to do all these things because automatically you see that when we manage the material part, we manage the CNC part, we do it everything automatically, so it's way quicker, okay? And now, for example, we can select this element and go in the panels, and if we want to see the machinings that are going to be inserted in here, I can go on machining management. So in here we have this element that I selected, and one by one I see that I have the trimming in here, the dowels, the drilling for the minifixes, and so on. And the same for the top panel. So for each element I have one my machinings. Obviously I can also create other machinings in here, okay? So let's see, for example, on a single panel, how we can manage all these elements. So you see that even here we created a new environment like the cabinet. So we can move in here, we can move this part. And here you can see the upper side of the machining, the back side. So we can make machinings or in the lower side, whatever it is, wherever we need it. So from here we also have the S, like solid. So here we have the phase where we want to put our machining. And here you have the panel to see, for example, here you see that we are working on this. Here you see that we are working on this machine. This can be a trouble when we have, for example, more elements where you have this, than this, and you don't know, for example, here that you are working the back side. So you know that you are making a machining here and not in this part, because you know, with a lot of rotation, sometimes you can get a bit confused, okay? Okay, so now here we see that we have the general management, where we can put the name of the element, the typology. So this you can change the typology. The cam offset, which is the name, which is, if you remember, if I want to cut it a little bit bigger. Then we have this part where we can decide if this element can receive machining, do not receive machinings. Here, we're not going to see this now, because we're going to see it later on when we are going to create our hardware, okay? Because the hardware, of course, when you create a hinge, you don't want the hinge to receive the machining from another hinge. The hinge doesn't need to receive the machining. But the panel, this one, if I put a hinge, it has to receive the machining of the hinge, okay? Okay, so here, for example, let's see that for each side that we have, for example, this, I can create a milling. In the milling here, we have different ways to create it. The milling can have more vertices. So from here we can decide part by part, 100 by 100, the dimension of this. Then we can 300 by this. We can change this part like this, or like you was asking me before, we can, in the structures or in the 2D, for example, you can also put a different design, etc. You can, and we will see better later on, it's just for you to understand what we are able to see. We can associate and add the machining. So there's no need to make every time you see the coordinates, because it's very boring, that's for sure. So now here we can create this, then we can create, for example, a new element as a circle, so 20, and we will put it 50, 50 here. And here we have our elements. So it can be not only this, it can be, for example, also an element like this. So I will put 50, 20, where I can make also a radius. So I can create something quicker. Otherwise, you can use, as I did, the polyline, okay? Now, obviously, it's important in a machining, in this case, to center the entry of the tool. The alignment is very important, but let's before set up the tool that makes it. So you see now this element is bigger. It's important now to see the alignment because it can be, you see, on the left, on the right, or centered. See, it's very important, this part, okay? The machining can be internal, as if you remember. So I'm making the machining in here.
Okay.
It can be external. So I want to make the machining here, but it will be transferred to another panel. If we go here, in the machining management, you see here we have, these are the internal machining, so I do them here. This one, you see, is both internal and external. So here, in the internal, you see we have the 22 millimeters. And we are going to export a 14 millimeters machining in here. In fact, when we are here and we select this, for example, you see that this has this option, elaboration made from machining transfer. So it means that this machining is here only because this element received an external machining from another tool, from another hole, okay? So from here, we can decide if this is an internal machining, external, or both of them. As we saw, for example, for the trimming, etc., the important part, of course, is to put a depth. So I can put a start and end depth. This, if I want this to be 10 millimeters. So if you see here now, this one doesn't make, you see, a sort of solid clip, but I see just the cam information, okay? Because it's, we don't have the possibility, it's not like in the top where we put the hole and then it also make the machining. That is just because it's a tool that the top does, but otherwise it's not possible. We just have the machining information like this. Okay, this, if we want this to be 10 millimeters depth, or like we saw for the trimming, if we wanted to go through the panel, you saw like this, then you saw is 40, and then I can decide to have 2 millimeters more than 40, and you see, this is the thickness plus 2 millimeters.
Okay.
Or plus 1, or that depends. So here all these elements, we already saw them.